Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I am Dana K. White. I share my personal deslobification process. As I figure out ways to keep my own home under control, I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people, people who don't love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 420, and I am doing a rapid Q&A. I'm going to talk about getting stuck. I'm going to talk about husbands and kids and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about systems when you don't have a closet to hide things, stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to go through some questions that were asked over in the question box on Instagram. You can always follow me there it's the @ symbol, A Slob Comes Clean on Instagram. And just wanted to answer some of those questions. Again, as I always say when I do these, I enjoy doing them because I think it's kind of fun to get through a lot of different things in one go. But I always also want to say I have very little background, or basically no background on any of these. And so I'm answering them as best I can with the information that I have immediately upon reading them, as opposed to finding out a lot of what's going on. That's one of the reasons I love doing the strategy sessions, is I find out what's really going on behind the questions that people are giving me, because I only know what was in this teeny tiny little question box over on Instagram. So, but I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can. Here we go. Real question. That's her saying it, right? How do you push through when you are tired, stuck, burned out with decluttering? I am going to say don't push through. I am going to say stop, rest, enjoy it. Enjoy the work that you've already done. Experience the things that you are able to experience now because of the decluttering that you have done. And I'm also going to remind you that the beauty of the no mess process, my 5-step process that guarantees, if you follow it, progress and only progress, is that you can stop at any time. So if you are feeling burnt out, you don't have to push through. You can take a break because you've been doing things in a way where you have not created a bigger mess for yourself that you can't stop. And so many times that is the reason that it's hard to declutter, because you dread having to push through, or because in the past you didn't push through and you had pulled everything out of the space, or you had sorted things into all these big piles. And now you're like, what in the world? And you're like, it feels like the only choice is push through or shove everything back in there worse than it was before. Those are not the only choices. Instead, use the no mess method. And then that means you don't have to push through. You can take a break. And then you can come back to it and be like, oh my goodness, I made a lot of progress last time. Okay, I'm going to pick up from there. I'm going to start back with the trash. Oh, two pieces of trash this time. Move on through things. And that is the answer to this issue. Again, I have to say, I'm like, I don't know. Are there physical exhaustion issues there? Are there other challenges? Blah, blah, blah. But that is my short answer to that short question. How do I get my husbands and kids and pets to change? And then she says, kidding. You can't. Obviously, with kids and pets, there's some training in there that comes along. But as far as truly making someone else be different, that is not something we can do. I'm sure all of my therapists, and I'm learning things these days, but all of you who are mental health professionals out there, I know that you're like, exactly, you can't change anyone but yourself. So that's the answer. You can't. But you know what I'm going to say, right? Focus on what you can do, working on your own stuff and neutral stuff, and helping your kids through their stuff and helping them, bringing them in on your already existing routines. The kiss of death for all this kind of stuff. And I'm saying this knowing that here we are at the beginning of summer when I used to think this is when I'm going to do all this. The kiss of death for these big changes is to say, okay, everybody, this is what we're all going to start doing starting today. It is so important that you work on the changes first, not worrying about them, and then bring them in on those changes so that they have a frame of reference for what it is that you're trying to do. If it drives you bananas that the kitchen is messy all the time, you can give them jobs to do, but don't try to give them the vision until you have created the vision. Okay. So you can have them, you throw away the trash, you bring the dishes to the sink, you do this, and that's fine. But as far as the actual making it a routine, you worry about yourself and doing that first. And then you can bring them in on that routine. You notice I didn't even address the husband thing, but focus on your own stuff and neutral stuff first. That is the thing that works, but it's never what people want to hear on that, right? Okay. Suggestions for a pretty paper system if you don't have a closet or desk to hide it. I don't do pretty, and I also don't do a lot with paper. So I don't, sometimes I'm like, maybe somebody follows me on Instagram and doesn't actually know what they've gotten themselves into. Like all of you here on the podcast do know. I do a paper system where I have 3 files that are on the wall. So it's kind of pretty. And I put like a blue file folder at the front of it just to kind of keep it from being just paper, whatever. But it's not this amazing, pretty system because for me, the more important thing was just to eliminate the vast majority of paper that I need to keep for any reason anyway, right? So if you can really, go to digital on everything that you can, go ahead and act on the things that need to be acted on so that those things can be thrown away. And then you can get it down to a defined, confined, contained space that's automatically going to be prettier. How did you maintain? I did a massive declutter and my house was amazing. It didn't last. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to ask there, again, a lot of people on Instagram don't necessarily know all the ins and outs. They haven't listened to all the podcasts or read the books. The first thing I'm going to ask there is, did you declutter or did you stuff shift? Did you actually get things like massive amounts of things? You said massive declutter. Did you get massive amount of things actually out of the house, or did you move them to other spaces so they were still there? The number one way to get decluttering to last is to make sure that you're actually decluttering and getting stuff out of the house. Declutter down to the containers, down to the space. A container is any defined space. It can be a tabletop. It can be the shelf, the cabinet, the closet rod, any of that kind of stuff. So declutter down to where things all have an actual space to be in the home. And then the way to maintain it is the 5-minute pickup. At some point during the day, almost every day, whenever you think about it, set the timer for 5 minutes, pick things up and put them away. If you're like, well, 5 minutes doesn't cut it, then declutter some more. You're over your clutter threshold. The way to know that you can handle the amount of stuff in your house is with the 5-minute pickup, is doing the 5-minute pickup and seeing, does this get the house back under control easily? Okay. But that is the answer to maintaining is the 5-minute pickup. And if it's not working, if that's not enough time, then get rid of some more stuff and make sure it's gotten rid of, not just stuff shifted. Next question. Where do I even start? Whew, boy, do I feel this one, because that exactly was me. Where do you start? If everything is overwhelming to you, you start by saying, I am just going to do the dishes every day. Now, today, that's a daunting task if you're behind, but tomorrow, do them again. And it won't be near as daunting as it was today. The next day, do them again, and you'll be like, wow, wait, what? That's 1 day's worth of dishes? Do the dishes. Where do I even start? Always start with the dishes. If you can't do anything else, do the dishes. If you do the dishes for several days and you're like, okay, I could actually do something else now, do a 5-minute pickup. Those are the 2 tasks that will maintain any progress that you've made and will get you started if you are completely overwhelmed. They are the 2 magical, but not magical at all because they're work tasks, right? If you're talking specifically about clutter, where to start, go to the entryway of your home and start throwing away trash. That's how you start, okay? Because we're talking about the actual things that you don't even have to think about. You don't ask yourself the question, is this trash? It's just literally actual trash, okay? Throw away that. And there's no emotional energy being expended, but it will get you moving and get you started. And it has to be done anyway, right? Next question. Best question to ask yourself when decluttering your closet. So I follow the 5-step process. My 5-step process, you can get a printable when you sign up for the newsletter at aslobcomesclean.com/5. But I follow that process. Yes, for clothing, for everything. Trash, easy stuff, obvious donations, asking the 2 decluttering questions, and then the container concept. The container concept is where it is here, okay? The one question would be, does this item deserve space in the actual closet that I have? With the drawers that it has, if it has drawers, on this specific closet rod. So not coming up with some new system, not dreaming up or researching the very best closet system, but instead saying what deserves space in the actual closet that I already have. Okay. How do you find the time to declutter when caring for young children? It's hard. It's a time of life where this kind of stuff is difficult. Again, when you have the mentality that the more stuff I get rid of, the less stuff I ever have to deal with again during this busy, difficult time of life, then, that's a game changer right there to have that mindset change. But how do you find the time? You use the no mess decluttering process so that you don't have to know how much time you're going to have. A big issue when you have young kids is that things are going to happen. I am going to get called away. I am not going to be able to finish this. The no mess decluttering process means that you don't have to finish it. You can make progress in any amount of time that you have, even if you don't know how much time you're going to have, right? Like you may think, I might have an hour. Okay, I'm going to get started. I can work through the steps in whatever amount of time that you have. You don't have to know. That is a game changer in this unpredictable phase of your life that you're in. Small house, lots of kids, big age range. How do I keep older things safe from the little ones? So I'm not in this specific phase of life right now, and I don't know that I've ever had a huge age range of my kids because my kids are all 2 years apart and I only have 3 kids. But it would be, where would you look for this first? That it's safe, right? And so designating that space for your older kids, maybe it's the higher shelves or whatever. Those are the ones. So that's the space that we have for them. That means the things that they need to keep safe, or that, the things that they need to keep away for the safety of the younger kids, need to fit in that space. That determines how much of that kind of stuff that we can even have. So we put the most important favorite ones in first, and then that's the limit to how much of that kind of stuff that we can have. Okay. Because it's always good to have those limits of, it's not just, oh, I like this thing. It's, oh, well, do we have the space for it? Which is a challenge when you have lots and lots of people in the house. Okay, great question here. When you leave emotional clutter for later, do you stash it somewhere? So what this person is talking about, I'm assuming, is that I always advise that you skip things. If you get to something that you just can't even ask yourself the decluttering questions about, you just can't even fathom, a lot of times it's because you probably shouldn't keep it, but you're also like, I can't even blame the container for this one. I just can't do it. And so I say skip it because you don't want to halt your decluttering progress. Move to the next item. I do not stash it somewhere. I leave it where it was. Because then if it's an out in the open space, it starts to drive me crazy when the space is otherwise cleared except for that one item. And I'm like, oh, and it changes my feelings toward that item when I'm like, ugh, that thing is getting on my nerves because here it is. And I didn't have a real place to be in my house. Right. So I leave it. If it's in if it's in a closed in space and I've cleared out this cabinet and here's this one odd item in there, it can live there. It's fine. Right. Generally, what will happen is when I come back to declutter that space again, because there's no such thing as being done with decluttering. When I come back to that space again, I look at it and the thing looks completely different to me. And so even though it was highly emotional before and I had to skip it because I just couldn't make a decision about it, now I'm like, oh, I thought I had all these feelings about it, and then I completely forgot about that thing, or I thought I went ahead and got rid of it, or whatever. It looks very different to me. The other thing too, though, is even with emotional stuff, I ask myself the question, where would I look for this item first? This thing that has no value other than being emotional, where would I look for it first? I take it to that space. Is there any room there? I need to face the reality of that space. Am I willing to get rid of something else in order to keep this emotional thing? Oh, I'm not. Well, maybe it's not as emotional as I thought, right? How to deal with declutter burnout. This is similar to one that I answered earlier, right? But I can't even remember, even though it's been 16 minutes ago. How do you deal with declutter burnout? Yeah. So the podcast next week is about how to be motivated, or how to motivate yourself to declutter. And so I will talk a lot about this, but my short answer is let yourself take a break. And when you declutter, use the 5-step no mess process, because that will let you know that I can stop if I feel like stopping. If I start to feel burned out, I can stop, because I will never have made it any worse. I will only have made it better. I will only have made progress in this space. And there is so much power in that. Next, reasoning with a loved one who doesn't want to get rid of free stuff because it was free. Okay, so this can be incredibly frustrating. And in last week's podcast, we talked about how to help other people declutter, right? And this is one of those things that you, as the person helping, is frustrated about, right? Like you're feeling the frustration of, oh my word, it has no value. You don't need it. You don't want it, but it was free. So all of a sudden you want to keep it. Like I get that it's frustrating, and yet that is not helpful when you're dealing with the other person. So what do? We don't judge. We acknowledge that it's their stuff and they get to keep it, but there are also facts at play here. The facts are the space we have is the space that we have, right? And so it is an opportunity for you to demonstrate that we're not just going to arbitrarily say, no, you can't have that thing. Instead, we're going to go through the process, okay? If you needed this free egg boiler, even though you're allergic to eggs, if you needed this free egg boiler, where would you look for it first? You maybe don't say that even though you're allergic to eggs, even though you want to say that, right? But somebody gave it to them and they took it because it was free, and now they feel like they need to keep it because it was free, and yet they can't even use it, like physically can't even use it. This is me making up a scenario. This is not what they said. If you needed this egg boiler, where would you look for it first? Or boiled egg maker, whatever they call them. That question, not putting in all of your no, literally ask them, where would you look for it first? If they have an answer for that, accept their answer, but take it there now. Go with them to this place. Oh, I would look for that on the shelf in the garage. Well, if this is an ongoing issue for them, it's very likely that that shelf in the garage doesn't have space on it because it's got other things that they got for free, right? So you say, okay, let's go do that. You're building some trust here, and they're not expecting you to not have argued with them about how dumb it is to keep. And I'm not saying dumb, but you know what I mean? Like, this is your perspective. You're frustrated because you're like, you can't use this. You are allergic to eggs. And they're expecting this big battle. So they're going to be taken back by the fact that you didn't battle over it. You said, okay, so you would look for it on the top shelf of that shelf in the garage. All right. Okay, let's go take it there right now. They're going to say, oh, no, I'll do that later. No. This is part of the process that I learned from that lady. I remember I told you that podcast I listened to. Ugh, anyway, but let's try what she said and let's go take it there now, right? And you take it there, and that shelf is full of other stuff that they got for free, that they don't need, that they're never going to use. And you say, okay, great. Yeah, let's put it on the shelf. What are you willing to get rid of to make the space for it? Oh, well, I'm not willing to get rid of it, anything up there. No, those are all good things. Those were all free. Oh, okay. Well, then we'll have to get rid of this because there's no room for it. No. Okay, sure. Of course we can keep it and let it go back and forth. But the shelf is the shelf. So many times, either in the, I don't want to take it there now, or they're going to have the realization, most likely, I can't guarantee it, but many people in these situations are going to have the realization when we say, sure, you can keep it. We just have to give it an actual space. And that may mean getting rid of something else. Then yes, it was valuable because it was free, but the facts are that the space is the space and there's no room for it. Okay. And that will often jog the reality that, oh, actually, I can let this go, because I'm not saying that it's not amazing that I got this thing for free and it's not a super cool gadget. What I'm saying is, oh, I wish I could keep it, but I don't have the space, right? And it's not fun and it's not quick and it's not easy, but it does work. Clutter that has to be completed, like paperwork, kills my momentum. Thoughts? Yes. Count completing the paperwork as decluttering. Because if it is only staying in your house because it has not been completed and it's floating around, if you complete it, then it can not be in your house anymore. You can mail it off, and that is a form of decluttering because it is no longer in your house. So changing that mindset is incredibly powerful. Okay, here's another one that has to do with mail. How do I deal with husband's request to redact our names from mail? Want to make this a quick daily chore. Okay, so this is actually very similar to the other one. I want it to be a quick and daily chore. So having the place where I go that already has the ink roller or whatever it is that you need, the marker that you need to be able to do that, it's the doing it immediately. And then that way you can throw it away. In the same way that I always tell people, one of the best ways to prevent paper clutter is to go straight to the trash or recycling bin as you're bringing it in. No halfway point. No point where you're like, oh, I'm going to set it here and then do that when I have time. No, going straight there will generally take your paper clutter down by 80, 85%. I mean, like, because everything that doesn't have a reason to stay in my home doesn't even, make it past the trash can. So I go straight there. So having that pen or whatever it is that you need immediately right there, so that that's part of the throwing it away, so that you hold it, redact the thing, throw it away, redact the thing, throw it away. And the reality of that is that doing that, even though the first couple times it's going to feel awkward, the doing of it is going to give you the trick that'll make it easier. Maybe you start tearing off, because, it said something also, about like tearing off the thing, tearing it off as you're walking up, as you're walking down the driveway or wherever it is from your thing. That can be, it's something that you get better and better, and you like find your tricks as you go. Okay, next question. How do I get rid of personal items, clothing, shoes that belong to my husband who has passed away? So painful. First, I just want to acknowledge how incredibly painful that is. I also want to say, I'm not a mental health professional, but I have heard the advice over the years many times from many different places to give yourself a year before you make any major decisions. And so if this feels like a major decision, even though someone else might tell you it's not a major decision, give yourself a year. Give yourself a year to not do the things that feel so hard, and see if that's helpful. If it's been over a year, then give yourself permission to keep your favorite. Keep your favorite of his things. Maybe designate a space that you're like, this is going to be the box or the shelf where I fold up and keep my favorite things that were his. And then take the time to look through everything, feel all the feelings, don't wear mascara, cry, do what you need to do, have a friend come and help you if you feel like they'll be sensitive to all this, and pick your favorite things to fill up that space that you are going to devote to keeping things. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? And right now, if everything is still hanging in the closet and it's causing you not only sadness, but also, panicky feelings over, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to make this decision someday. Or, oh, this is, so-and-so has told me that I should have already done this by now. And so now it's guilt and all that. Throw all that away and say, I'm not going to worry about that if it's not been a year. But if you're at a point where you feel like it is time and you just can't do it, go ahead and give yourself permission to keep a certain amount of things and focus on that. And a lot of times that puts a positive spin on what's so difficult. It's like, instead of thinking, what am I going to get rid of? you're thinking, oh, what do I want to keep? What is it that's special that I want to keep? And then that helps naturally sort out the things that are most important to you. Okay, here's a great question. How do you deal with the guilt of decluttering when you don't have a lot of money to spare? There are a lot of people who are going to tell you, oh, that's money that's already spent. That's true. That's totally true. Oh, don't look at it that way. You know, it's not actually giving you, sure, all those things. If they're helpful to you, that's great. Here's what I'm going to say. Pick one thing that you are most confident is actually something that would bring you some money and sell that one thing. Figure out the best way to sell it or the most accessible way to sell it for you and go through the process of selling that one thing and find out, did it sell for what you thought? Because you may try to sell it for what you were thinking and you've been holding on to it because you're like, that's worth $250 and I could really use $250. But if you go through the process, you very well may find out that what you thought was worth $250 because that's what your mama told you, actually, people only paid $27 for those, or actually nobody actually buys those or whatever. So go through the process and get the reality check of, is this actually worth something? But do it only with one item because that way it's not overwhelming. I'm just giving myself permission or taking Dana's permission to figure out how to even do this. Okay. As you do that, you will either learn how to sell things and then you'll be like, okay, now I can get it out of my house because I now know how to go about selling it. And that, means that you declutter and get the money, or you will realize, oh, these things are not worth as much money, or they wouldn't give me enough money to make my time that I would take to get rid of it worth it. Right. And so therefore, it will change your perspective on those things. And you're like, yeah, I could get $25 for that, but I'm not going to spend the 2.5 hours it would take me to do everything I would need to do to get the $25 for that. I'd rather get rid of it, free up bandwidth in my life where then I'm able to either be more frugal because I've got the, mindset and the bandwidth in my mind to be able to, look for deals on the things that I do need, or, whatever. But it just go ahead and try with the one item, but also know that the first step of selling something, especially if you've been thinking eBay, because I know that's kind of this promised land of people like, oh, I could probably sell this on eBay. I don't really know what eBay is, but I've heard a lot about it and people have made a lot of money on it. I've heard about that in the past. And so maybe I should try to sell this on eBay where somebody would really, really want it. First step is to go find an item exactly like the one that you have, put in all the details to find one just exactly like it, same condition, and then click over on the left where it says completed listings. You do not care how much people are asking people to pay for it. You only care what people are actually paying for it. So go and see how much are these selling for. Get a reality check. So many times that is a quick and easy, like 2 minutes or less way to find out that the thing you think is valuable isn't as valuable as you thought, and you can get rid of it. But you also might find out, oh, these things are valuable, but then these 10 things are not valuable. I can get rid of the 10. And now I feel like I've got the bandwidth to be able to sell the one, right? So it all, just take action, basically, is what I'm saying. Okay, one final question, and it's a great one. You mentioned you donate to a place that takes everything. How do I find a place like that? Goodwill doesn't take a lot of things. Okay, y'all, totally get this frustration. It isn't fun. But here's what you do. You call the places that are actually accessible for you to donate to. So if you have a town that has 3 different places and you have this vague feeling that they don't necessarily take all the stuff, you take the time to call them. It's painful. Nobody likes to make a phone call. But doing that, you're going to know. And you're going to know, oh, this place in town is a place that I can take everything. Or you're going to find out, oh, these places in town all don't take certain categories of items. So this is the one that takes the most of the stuff that I would have, but it doesn't take whatever item. Now I know that that category of item is the item that I have permission to throw away because nobody takes it. Okay. So you do your best, and then you let that knowledge be the thing that frees you to let go of things. Okay. So you make the phone call. I just can't. So many times, like, I will tell people that a lot of places want your stained and torn clothing because they sell it to rag makers, but not all places do. And so making the phone call is so not fun, but the freedom that it gives all down the line to be like, okay, I know that my place doesn't take that. So I am just going to throw it away. I wish I could. I wish I lived somewhere different, but I don't. So the reality is I don't have a place to give my stained and torn clothing. So I have to throw it away, but it's freedom in knowing what is actually going on. So I would just say call. And the first thing is if you're like, I've only ever taken it to one place, I don't even know what else is in my town. I always say, ask the people who live near you. That's where it's so hard because I can't tell you, just go to St. Vincent. Is that a place that some people have? Because I see this online all the time. People are like, just take it to so-and-so. And I'm like, hello, people live all over the world and don't all have the same exact places, right? And so I can't give you just take it to this place. Some places don't even have Goodwill, right? I don't have a Goodwill where I live. So that is not practical and not helpful. The most helpful information that you can get is actually where you live. And I know we want to all just Google everything so we don't have to talk to people. But the reality is that a lot of places that take donations, they're putting their time and effort into the donations and into helping people. They're not putting their time and effort into their online presence. And so they may not have everything there. So making that phone call after asking local people, where do y'all take your donations? That is incredibly helpful. Okay. All right. This has been fun. I do want to remind you that I take summers off, and I don't think I said this at the beginning of the podcast this time, but who knows? Anyway, so next week's podcast will be the last one. And then I'll take some time off for the summer, and I will be back after school starts. So it's been fun. And I promise I'm coming back. Just make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast app that you listen to so that when I do come back, it just automatically shows back up in your app. Okay. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.